Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I would like to thank everyone who's attending this panel on building and scaling AgTech in Africa, organized by the International Trade Center in this 2021 edition of Emerging Valley. I'm Kathy, and I work as an Associate Program Officer in Tech Sector Development at ITC, and I will be the moderator of this panel. According to the Digitalisation of African Agriculture report published by the Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation, CPA, in 2019, there were more than 400 digital agriculture solutions in use in sub-Saharan Africa. The same report shows a 40% annual growth on the number of registered farmers and digital solutions, suggesting the digital for ag market in Africa is likely to reach the majority of the region's farmer by 2030. Indeed, the digital sector delivers significant potential for growth in the agribusiness sector in Africa. And in this panel, we will discuss about the most promising frontier technologies for the agribusiness sector, the important questions related to investment and policy, but also hear the perspective of a tech startup, Lersha. I would like to welcome my amazing panel. So ladies first, we have Grace Legodi, who is a South African international investor with vast experience working with corporates and startups in South Africa and the United States. She is currently the Africa Director at Greenstone Ventures and consults to the World Bank Group, helping them execute on entrepreneurship ecosystem development in Southern Africa. Welcome, Grace. We also have Abram Andreas, founder and managing director of Green Agro Solution, with more than 15 years of professional experience in the agribusiness sector. So he founded in 2014 Green Agro Solution PLC, enthusiastically promotes one-stop digital solution to smallholder farmers, among which is a digital platform known as Lersha. So Lersha provide to farmers an easy platform where they can access inputs, mechanization services, and agroclimate advisory. Thank you for being here, Abram. We also have Maurice. Maurice Kashin Kohi is the managing director of Komasi Hive, a tech innovation hub which, through its future workforce for Africa initiative, trains undergraduate, unemployed, and underemployed youth to acquire competent skills in emerging technologies. Maurice is a lead member of the IFO Policy Forum as well, so which is a network of stakeholders across 25 countries in Africa in government, private sector, and entrepreneurs to support the emergence of relevant policy reforms. Last but not least, I'm honored to present Dr. Benjamin Adam, who is the Advisor, Agriculture and Fisheries Trade Policy at the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. Prior to this appointment, he spent 8 years in the Netherlands leading a team at CTA on digital agriculture across OACPs and EU. He's an expert in digitalization in agriculture. He led the design and production of the CTA Dalberg's The Digitalization of African Agriculture report. So I would like to go straight to that report now. So I'm going to ask my first question to Ben. So by the way, it is an amazing report that I just mentioned in my introduction. So although the report goes way back to 2018, 2019, I find it still very relevant. It shows an amazing overview of what is happening and the appetite for the digitalization for agriculture. Can you tell us more about what has been happening in the continent when it comes to the digitalization of the agricultural sector, and maybe more specifically in countries like South Africa, Ghana, or Ethiopia?
Thank you, Kathy, and pleasure to be part of this morning here in London. So this is a big report, and we don't have time, so I'll try to see what I can say about it. So the report came up as a result of our work in this area for a number of years, and we saw that the market was growing, but there was this challenge of coordinating reporting. So we wanted to have a baseline report. So it's good you mentioned that, the data, the facts and the figures, were far back in 2018, 2019. So this was a baseline report for Africa. So what we did was to do a quick research to see what is happening out there across the continent. And we found, as you said, over 400 digital solutions for agriculture. This increased from about 42 in 2012 to about 400 in 2018, 2019. Nearly 60% of these were developed within 2015, 16, 17. So you see that they were pretty new platforms and solutions. And in 2018 alone, about 20% of those 400 were developed. So you see the market was just catching up at that time. And services across extensions, market linkage and all others. But one other thing that we found was that solutions were getting bundled together. They were going beyond providing a single service to multiple services. And then out of the 400 solutions, they've registered over 33 million smallholder farmers into their platforms across. That's a big number, but based on the data, FAO and the World Bank, we have over 250 million smallholder farmers across the continent. So 33 million is still below what we were expecting. And the report also showed that the market size of over 2.3 billion of D4Ag market across the continent. But we were tapping only, about 128 million euros of that. So you see that the market was so huge, but we were not actually utilizing it. Investment was mostly donors and international development. Private sector investment was getting, up a bit, So we decided to do few country cases. So Ethiopia, for example, at that time had 5 million users, registered users in Ethiopia, and about 29 platforms or solutions did that, registered those. What we saw was that the sector was led by government in Ethiopia compared to some other countries. And so one of the recommendations we gave was there should be flexible regulation to further expand the industry to involve the private sector. A quick summary of Ghana case study. Compared to Ghana had about 57 solutions in the country at that time compared to 29 in Ethiopia. So Ethiopia had 5 million registered users, whilst Ghana had 1.6 million registered. So you can see it's not about the number of solutions, right? 57 solutions, but only 1.6 million compared to Ethiopia. So what we realized is that in Ghana, mobile money was very ripe. There were a lot of these platforms that focus on mobile money, but the downside of what we noticed too was that most of the rural communities were not being served. So one of the recommendations we gave was for the government to explore things like that. So just because of time, I would like to stop there and then give the opportunity to others to speak.
Great, great insights. Thank you very much, Ben. I will come back to you. So it is interesting that you mentioned Ghana. True, the number of users or less, in Ghana, when you compare to Ethiopia, which is a huge market. So I'm coming to you, Maurice. From Kumasi Hive, which is today a tech innovation hub, which has hands-on experience working with entrepreneurs who are at the heart of these innovations. So did you have the same observation as Ben, what has been happening in the agri-tech field in Ghana? Do you find a lot of agri-tech startups? So do you find a lot of solutions? How has it been in these last years?
Great. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity. So I can say, from the question you asked, not all of us have had access to the report that Mr. Adam just read. However, what I can tell you is, like you said, hands-on experience working with agri-tech businesses here in Ghana. I'd say that agri-tech has been part of the Ghanaian ecosystem for quite some time now, according to our research, because There's an element of hardware in agriculture here in Ghana, which is usually built by local artisans, which qualifies for technology. I think the fact that we've not added digitization to the hardware they use in their day-to-day agricultural activities is why we don't necessarily classify them as agri-tech on the continent. But for the last 20 years, I mean, there's been an insurgence in small-scale, hardware production for supporting efficient either harvesting or planting or just tilling the land, which all qualifies as agri-tech. So as a tech and innovation hub, what we thrive on is to look at the existing tech that is being used, add some level of digitization to it, or we look at what is possible and then we co-create digitized solutions to support agri businesses. Over the last 3 years, as a hub, we've been working with some of the agri-businesses in Ghana under the AGI and then the Ghana Chamber of Commerce to create some basic solutions, whether tractors or any other thing that would be necessary for them to utilize some level of technology on the field. A lot of young people we've organized programs for young people to also innovate along the lines of agri-tech, utilizing digital fabrication and the like. So I'd say that there's always been agri-tech like in Ghana or on the continent in our own way. It is just that maybe we're not doing it to the best of our ability as the tech increases on the global scale. For some reason, it has worked. What we are looking in agri-tech now is to be more efficient, to produce more tech innovations that will allow the work of people in the agribusiness or smallholder farmers to be more efficient in what they are trying to do. But I'd say that there's always been a presence of tech in agriculture here in Ghana, at least over the last 20 years. I think that's what I can say to that.
That's great. Thank you very much, Maurice. I would also like to hear from you, Abraham. As mentioned during my intro, you provide one-stop digital solution to smallholder farmers in Ethiopia. Today, you work with over 57,000 farmers. I am curious to hear more about your challenges as an agri-tech startups in a huge but yet complex market such as Ethiopia, as I already mentioned. What challenges do you face in terms of user adoption, scaling, or even funding?
Thank you, Katie. Bonjour, Marseille, and this is a privilege to be here and discuss this interesting topic. As Dr. Benjamin mentioned earlier, the Ethiopian agriculture system is dominated by the public. So most of the service, especially for smallholder farmer, is provided by the public offices. So since 2050, things are changing. The government regulated a lot of policy to attract private sector. And Green Agro Solution as a company has been working with the smallholder farmers by providing farm input and mechanization service conventionally, traveling from village to village. And that gave us an exposure to understand how smallholder farmers really do business. So since 2018, when it comes to scale up, it's difficult to scale up in a conventional approach. So we were looking a digital option, and that's where Lersha came into picture. And as you said, Katie, the first challenge was adoption. When we are talking about the Ethiopian smallholder farmer, the context is another farmer land holding is less than 1 hectare. So and when it comes to the adoption rate to technology is very low. In that case, we designed a mobile application, we designed a call center to provide a digital service, but because of low adoption rate, we innovated an approach where we recruit and train a young agriculture graduates from rural area, and we onboard them as a Lersha agent. And they are responsible to travel from in their domain, and they pitch the idea to smallholder farmers, and that gave us a good adoption rate. So technology by itself will not help you to get a good adoption. Rather, you need such a human intervention within the technology to pick the adoption rate. The other is also the literacy. When we are talking about this agtech or a digital solution, then the end users in Ethiopia, smallholder farmers are not interested to digitalize their life. They are interested to get input and mechanization service. So in that case, these Lersha agents serves as a bridge to narrow that adoption rate, that literacy rate, and the phone ownership issue. And the other big challenge is access to finance. From Kumasi Hive, I understand the such startup hub and innovation hub is very important. But these young kids, they don't only need advice, they also need finance. And to get finance in a formal institution is very difficult. In our case, 85% of our investment comes from equity, but it usually takes time to get trust and to get finance. Thank you.
Absolutely, finance. So we are lucky to have Grace today. So from Greenstone Ventures, Grace, from an investor point of view, I want to hear from you. I remember you mentioning your love for agri-tech and agribusiness when I first saw you on stage in Cape Town, but has already mentioned there is this absence of private sector investment in this sector. Why do you think it is the case, and why do you think it is important for VCs to invest in agri-tech startups in Africa?
Thanks so much, Kathy, and an honor to be with the panel here today. I think it goes without saying that, when you look at Africa and agriculture, agriculture is the prerequisite of being alive. And Africa has, some of the most, Arab, like natural competitive advantage of, the land and the soil that we have, whether you talk South, East, West, or North Africa. So I think it goes without saying that it is an imperative sector for, just worldwide well-being. And I think investors do acknowledge the importance of it. Where it starts to get tricky is that a lot of investors have never been smallhold farmers themselves, and so they only understand in theory what should be happening in the value chain of that is agriculture. And so when, as an investor, you're looking for returns, you then have to now start to ask yourself, which part of the value chain within agriculture do you play in? Or can you find a one-stop shop like a, Lersha with Abraham, where you can have a through the cycle type solution that can still provide the returns? Because what you're finding is that depending on where in the value chain you play, the scale is sometimes low, and so the margins are low, and so it becomes a volume game, and it's very sometimes hard for investors to get their heads around, be it from, do you start in the beginning where it's the tools and services, needed for the mechanization that, sort of Abraham speaks to. You also forget that the farmers are tiered. Is it, there are farmers that are, for survival. There are farmers that maybe sell 50% of their produce or sell 75% of their produce. And then you have commercial and mega farmers. So I'm always trying to find that sweet spot of where investors should go in is always hard. I think that more needs to be happen in each of the regions in terms of really having a proper ecosystem play where you can go through the cycle. And we just find that the agriculture sector is very, very fragmented at the moment. And so it's always tricky to say, do you start at the bottom with the smallhold farmers, or do you start with the, the commercial or mega farmers that have got it right, but then it's at the disadvantage of the smallholder farmer?
Very interesting, and is nice that you also mention the role of the ecosystem players in a fragmented sector. So I will come back to you, Maurice. Being what we call business support organization, you are today a tech hub. What do you do for the startups to meet the requirements of the investors to be investment ready in this context?
Yeah, interesting here from the perspective of a financier. And what needs to be done, I think we have IT as a tech hub that we really need to prepare our startups. And basically what we do is that for most incubator hubs or an accelerator hubs, we have incubation programs that is dedicated towards preparing the startup, understanding their business model, most importantly, how they can generate revenue as well, and then preparing them in terms of record keeping, bookkeeping, just the basic operations of their business that makes sense to an investor to put money in, because no investor is going to put money into something that will not, give him returns. We also have to understand what the exit clause would look like, or some of the startups in Ghana or even on the continent I've worked with do not have interest in investment because they don't want to lose a bit of their business, especially when it has to do with equity. So we also have to have that kind of training with them, have a particular kind of understanding along those lines. We also do some contracts training for them to understand what a contract looks like and how to prepare a contract, or how to understand a contract when an investor brings it to your forefront. But at the core of this is the operations of the business and how effective the operations is generating some level of revenue monthly. Because some people, get money for the business and they don't even know when to break even, but they're looking for more investment, which usually does not make sense to financiers, especially the banks here in Ghana, because if they don't know how the money flows in the business, they're not going to listen to you. So our key focus is along those lines, which boils back down to how effective we're working with them on the field and making sure that the basic things along the business value chain is met. And sometimes we equally as a tech hub, put our staff together with the startups to make sure that at least they are meeting the requirements of the investors, just so that they are prepared. Because some startups we realized are not serious. I mean, they all care about the money. Let's be very realistic. We're on the continent. A lot of us have a self-gratification attitude. So a startup gets into business, and the first funds they get, they are thinking of the car, they are thinking of something, not necessarily to keep the business afloat. Yeah. Yeah. So these are things that not take your time to build that level of grit and the entrepreneurship mindset in the people. No matter how much you bring investment towards them, they will squander it. So sometimes we put our staff together with the startups to make sure that they go through these basic processes and make sure that the cash flow is positive enough to attract an investor to want to give them money to see their businesses come to fruition. So I think that's what I'll say along those lines. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, great point. Great point. So I don't know, Abraham, do you have anything to add on that point? So what has been your experience when it comes to access to investment, and what do you think about that view that just Maurice shared?
Yeah, I somehow agree with Maurice, but in general, everybody think agriculture is risky. And of course, it's risky, but sometimes the return is also very good. And uh, from the financial point of view, usually when it comes to startup, there is an intention to consider that as a gray, it's a green field kind of, from the financial point of view, they want to invest their money on a business model that's already proven. But when it comes to early startup stage, these startup companies are looking for finance to build the model and then to implement. In that case, I think an intention of helping hard somehow, or kind of an angel investor model, is very important to help these startups. But in general, Maurice is right. In general, young people is looking after that short path to success. But when it comes to agriculture, the journey is not that easy, and then the travel is usually a bit longer, and you have to prove. And I completely agree that when it comes to smallholder farmers, the affordability, the willingness, even if there is willingness, the demand to pay is very low. So when it comes to agriculture, we are serving a market where the willingness to pay is very low. So in that case, I think it requires some time from a financer point of view to support the financer, and startups also should understand success is not that easy, and they have to hang on with the journey.
Great. Grace, is interesting that we're talking about how investors might be risk averse. So we're talking about high risk, high reward, but at the same time, we have seen also an increased number of investment in early stage startups. So in Africa, do you find the same trend in South Africa? So do you think that there is a shift of mindset right now when it comes to investing in early stage startups?
Yes and no. So I think that the interest and willingness and acknowledgement that we have to go, into early stage investment is there. Where it gets tricky is when it comes to implementation, because the people that naturally have the capital and the ability to invest in early stage investments are very much people that still have the Series A private equity mindset of proven business models that Abraham spoke to. And so there's always that mismatch in terms of the wish to do it and the mindset or capacity to think about and have to, be agile to think about the risk specific to early stage investing. For speaking for myself, personally, as an example, we've just launched a fund, Grindstone Ventures, to invest in that very gap that we're seeing early stage, where it's everything sort of post-seed, pre-series A. And this is where I'm seeing that, a mind shift is required within our skill sets to have that appetite, and, and also ensuring that we partner with, crowdfunding as well as angel investors and DFIs, like really just coming together as a consortium of investors with different risk appetites and different, capacities of resources that can really then, cater to this green field that needs to be. So I feel like it takes a village. It takes a village.
Absolutely,
and it
it
is
takes
happening.
a village. Yeah, I'm coming back to Dr. Benjamin. So we just talk about investment. The report also highlight the importance of having the right policy, focus, and investment to ensure sustainability. So my question for you is also, what is the role of governments? What role do they play in helping private sector players and development partners to invest in digital projects, and also to create an enabling environment?
Yeah, thank you again. As I listen to the tech guys and the investors, it brings me back to what I'm doing now. So now I work at the Commonwealth Secretariat, and I look at the policy side of all this. And one thing that the report gave 7 recommendations. One of them was to invest in the missing middle infrastructure. Invest in the missing middle infrastructure. At that time that we were working on the report, even that was not very clear to us what we meant by that, But as we continue to read the report and look at the industry, one thing that we are finding is that investors and those who finance, like the development organization, the donors that do initially finance project to somehow de-risk the project before the actual investors come in, they look for data, right? They want to prove that this platform has social impact, or some financial value, right? And it's hard to come up with that kind of data. Even the report, we tried to prove that in the report and we couldn't, because we didn't have the data. So the recommendation, this one recommendation, was talking about the missing infrastructure that needs to be put in place to facilitate access and use of data. So it's not just about data, but putting infrastructure in place. And that is where the role of governments come in. National governments have left it for the private sector. And as I said, for example, in Ghana, at that time, about 57 platforms operating in one country. You go to Kenya, we had about 113 platforms in Kenya alone operating. So you can see the duplication that it's not that we are against competition, right? But you see the waste and duplication because of lack of regulation, lack of government intervention. So the argument is that if national government can come in with policy, with support from the tech guys and put that kind of infrastructure, data infrastructure, then if the tech guys go to the country, they don't need to invest in profiling farmers. They don't need to invest in weather data, agronomic data, market data, because that layer is already there. That basic infrastructure is already put in place by the government with all the farmers in Ghana in one database. So if a mobile money service provider comes in, financial service or whatever, they don't have to profile farmers again because they have access to that data. And investors who are looking for, those kind of data can easily ride on it. So that data infrastructure is what we think national government, it's not just regulation, it's not just policy, but a whole thinking around all other things that need to be put in place for access to data for both investors as well as development partners to report on their log frames that they are because the report that we are talking about, we talk about reach. But reach is different from what my other speakers are talking about adoption. Risk is just the first step, registered farmers, and then you reach them. But the actual adoption and use is completely different. So the 33 million that were reached, at that time, the report said only 11 million were actively using the service out of the 33 million. So yes, there's a lot for us to do.
Maybe if I can just jump in there, Dr. Benjamin, Kathy, if you could allow me. Another example of like where, it's, a lot of infrastructure is really needed for that missing middle is, you're sitting in 2021 and if you go to like a fresh produce marketplace where, smallholder farmers will sell to agents that will then go on and sell their produce on consignment. Now, what you forget that, for example, spinach, it's a perishable. So the price decreases every single day that spinach is not sold, as an example. So also at any point in time, it's very hard for even smallholder farmers to say, I gave, this agent so much spinach, on which day did which spinach get sold, at what price. So it just shows you how it runs deep, the type of infrastructure that is needed in terms of digitalization and monetizing from across the value chain.
Great point. That's a really great point. Not only the need for policy and regulation, but also data infrastructure. So I think it is also, very important for investors, but also for development agencies like us. So Grace, I would also like to talk about inclusivity, including women. So when it comes to those value chains, digital value chains, we know that women are underrepresented in the tech sector. How can we uh, ensure that there is this gender balance and that they included in the process?
Yeah, and this is where I'd like to actually applaud the agriculture industry because I think that is one industry that I do believe that they are not just talking about it, but they're really walking the talk in terms of being more inclusive to women. And I think it's very similar to the model that Lucia is doing right now in terms of the adoption, the literacy, the training, sort of being more intentional about including them into the value chain and just realizing how much value that they can actually add. and they've started at grassroots as opposed to saying, oh, we're looking for women smallholder farmers, or oh, we're looking for, a woman ag tech. So they've got into the grassroots of the literacy, education, and adoption that is required amongst women that are, otherwise unemployed and don't have any means of providing for their families. So it is
That's
happening
great.
in the sector. It's
It
promising
is
to see. Obviously, always more can be done, but Rome wasn't built in a day, but we are seeing the progress.
Absolutely. So do you agree, Abram?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think Wes mentioned a very important point, and excluding women from the agriculture sector is also something impossible, because if you look at some value chain, most of the activity is performed by women. So when you digitalize it, when you digitalize the process, then by the process they will also be then included. And in our business model, from our point of view, 30% of our leisure agents are women. And initially we were a bit afraid, what if we don't get that 30% number? But we were proven wrong. Now most of the hardworking and successful agents are the women one. So this leisure agents profile is agriculture graduates. So they are the son and the daughter of smallholder farmer living in a village. So the trust is already there. The leisure agent is the neighbor of the smallholder farmer. And being a woman, socially, we found that they are more responsible. And when you assist them with this digital technology, we found out that they are the future agripreneurs. And if you ask me one good reason not to stop this journey, it is because of such a wonderful women leisure agents. So the model itself appreciates such an inclusion.
Agreed.
That's great. That's really great to hear. It is now time to wrap up. I think it was a good point just to end this panel. I would like to thank you all. This was an amazing panel. And so the main points discussed include the willingness to see more private investors in this sector, particularly in countries such as Ethiopia. We also hear about the challenges for early stage so startups to raise investment, but also we're seeing more willingness for investors to invest in early stage startups, as mentioned in the Partech report. So we also talk about the need for data infrastructure, which is really important. To move forward and to ensure sustainability. And finally, so more intentional inclusivity when it comes to women, and gender balance. I would also like to mention the Netherlands Trust Fund 5 program, which is a program based on a partnership agreement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands and the United Nations International Trade Center. So its ambition is to contribute to rebuilding back in Ghana, Ethiopia, Senegal, with a focus on MSMEs in the digital technologies and agribusiness sectors. So linking up both synergies and providing support to IT companies and agri-tech startups in these countries, so to grow and scale the next 4 years. Thank you very much to this panel. It was great. So we are glad to be once again be part of one of the panel of Emerging Valley. Thank you, Marseille. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you. Bye.